This is a Dodge Cummins 12 valve. It's in the process of disassembly. I have engine bearings on the way, however it may be about 2 weeks before I get them. So this crankshaft, it's pretty sizable. It's heavy and long and 6-cylinder. And I've been delaying on removing this crankshaft because I think it's the best place to store it is actually in the block. However, in this video I would like to remove the crankshaft because I think it is possible to store it on the floor in such a way that it would simulate being in the engine. So what I have here is a piece of rubber hose, and when it was in its storage area, this hose, it had kind of a shape like this. So I've taped it to the engine hoist here in such a way that it's being forced to take on a new shape. And I think if I set the camera on a tripod and I watched it long enough, I would probably see it sag more and more, taking on a new shape. And I'm not suggesting that an improperly stored crankshaft would bend and distort like this rubber hose, but what I am suggesting is that an improperly stored crankshaft could possibly distort slightly. So the idea is to try and get the crankshaft sitting on all of the mains. So right now it's sitting on 2x4s, and also at each location is some shims. And I've already been adjusting on the shims in such a way that right now there's the primary weight is on the 2 outside ones. So these shims are fairly snug, and these are as well, but the rest of them are still fairly loose. So this gives me a starting point to start adjusting on the shims. And the shims, they look like this, and I have them positioned sort of like this as well, so that if I move the shims together, then it increases the pressure on the bottom of the crankshaft. So if the crank was just going to be out for a short while, then I would just stand it up on end like this camshaft. However, this crankshaft may be out of the block for a few weeks now. So this shim idea could actually be used on other engine components as well, like this cylinder head, for example. If I would take maybe 2 more pieces of 2x4 and then start shimming, I think you get kind of the idea. So here's some crankshafts. They've been in storage for a number of years and they're standing upright on the floor. So in my opinion, the best way to store a crankshaft is in the block, and the second best way is to lay it flat on the floor on shims, and the third best way would be to stand it upright, however to also suspend some of the weight from the top. So this crank is threaded. It would be possible to suspend some weight from the top and also have it sitting on the floor at the same time. And the fourth best way is just to stand it upright and let it sit with all the weight on the bottom of the crank. And the worst way would be to just lay the crank on the floor. So the crankshaft storage ideas that I've been presenting in this video applies primarily to larger engines. So I don't think it would make a difference really how this little single cylinder Briggs & Stratton crank would be stored. However, the bigger engines like that Cummins, I think that crank, I'm going to take a guess, I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that that crank is 125 pounds. I could be wrong. And cranks get a lot bigger than that, you know, bigger engines. And so anyways, just some of my thoughts on crankshaft storage. So thanks for checking it out, guys.